Yo, TJ, how you doing, man?
Jim, I'm doing great, man. Good to be here.
That's
Good to
what
see you.
that's what's up, dude. What is that back there?
Oh, well, that happens to be a wonderful book by a good friend of mine called The
Oh
Suffering Guy, the title I've never wanted.
no, get out of here with that trash. Although, thank
No,
you. No. Other side, way
the
more
the
important,
blue one? Oh, but blue. That's my book, Control Freak, the least valuable player.
dude. I can't wait to hear all about that. But next to that, it's black. What is that?
That's a little gift from Amazon. I got Control Freak was blessed to get Amazon's best-selling author in 3 different categories. So I got this plaque.
Are you kidding me,
No.
dude? I hate you because I ain't you.
It's not me. I really didn't do a whole lot. Um, I created some content on YouTube and about coincidence or God, started a series and started posting that on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. And God kind of took those and ran with them. And the next thing you know, I've got all these people purchasing books and downloading audios. And the cool thing is
Man,
the more books we sell, the more we take that money and we pour right back into buying more books. So Jack and I can give out more books to more people.
dude, I'm so jealous if I had a plaque, it'd be right here.
Right?
Right there. Yeah. No plaques. It's blank. All right. Are you ready to start the official podcast?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do this then. All right.
Come on.
Let's go. TJ. Yeah. You just got to dance it in a little bit. Hey, what is up? Welcome to the Gapcast. I am your host, Jim Barnard, the head coach of Tiller Coaching. With me today, I know I say this every time, I'm really excited, but this time I actually mean it. I mean it every time. Are you kidding me? But this is a special treat. I've got a best-selling author in the house. Am I a best-selling author? Because you're a best-selling author? We'll get there. There. The one, the only, TJ Sharitz. How are you, man?
Yo, Jim, man, it's good to be here. How are you?
I'm great. Honestly, I've been looking forward to this. You were
Me too.
when I was launching the Gapcast, you were definitely like top a list of someone I wanted to have on because your story, wow, I don't know what to say. It's wow. You got a story, bro.
I do. Well, we all have stories.
Of
and
course.
every one of us has a unique story. And mine at times got so wild and crazy that, Jack and I talked about it, that if I don't write this down, generations will not know how truly blessed I have been and continue to be. So it was, as you know, it was a long, tedious process for a dyslexic ADD adult male.
I am intimately aware of that. Let's level set a little bit for the audience. You mentioned Jackie. That's your amazing wife. She's like the greatest human. I'm such a giant fan of hers. Let's do this.
Me
How
too.
did we meet? Yeah, I know you are. Like that goes without saying. How did we meet, man? Like we kind of have an interesting.
Yeah, I mean, God, once again, is a master orchestrator. So I was serving at Passion City Church here in Atlanta, and I was one of the broadcast camera operators. And literally for pretty much 11, almost 12 years, I was there every single Sunday for every service. I did special events, did Teen Camp, the Passion Conference, and I was always on handheld camera. That was kind of my spot, my sweet spot, if you would. And with that, I was, kind of messing around with trying to get this manuscript done. I had played with it over the years, and I got to know a wonderful couple that you know quite well, Jay and Catherine Wolf, and they had written a book at the time, Suffer Strong, and then Hope Heals. So these two books, not only did I read, but Jackie and our kids read them, and they were very, very impactful in our lives and in our walk with pursuing Jesus. And I did a number of videos with them and talks with them through Passion. And over the years, got to know them a little bit better, not just who is that guy that I always see. And I asked them and told them, hey, I'm working on a manuscript. Would it be possible that maybe you guys, when I get to that point, could help me out or mentor me or walk me through what do I do? Because I know there's more to writing a book than just creating a manuscript. And lo and behold, when the manuscript was done, I was able to set up a time with Jay and Catherine, and they were so gracious and welcoming and had some great feedback, as well as some suggestions for me moving forward. And one of the pivotal things that they highly recommend was getting in touch with you, since you were a self-published author and had a very similar story to theirs, and thus a similar story to mine as well. So that's how you and I came to be. And I reached out to you, and next thing I know, you're on a plane to Atlanta, and you're spending some quality time at the Sharitz Hotel, and you became part of the family real quick.
I mean, real quick. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think like maybe I missed your email or something. Like Jay ended up emailing me and was like, "Hey man, can you reach out to this dude?" And I'm like, yeah, totally. Like, he's like, I want to help him. He seems like a good dude. I don't know him very well, but I just don't really have the time, which makes sense. Their ministry's super busy. They run these Hope Heals camps every year, and they're constantly on tour. And it's like, yeah, dude, I've got more time. I'd be happy to help out. So,
well, I did notice that they wrote something in your book. They wrote a little message. I was not blessed with that, but I was blessed with you. So,
okay, well, that's a rough trade-off. I'm so sorry. Yeah, they were great to me. This is actually the second week in a row we're mentioning them on the pod. Maybe I need to reach out to them here shortly to get them on. But yeah, I just I'm so glad that I took him up on that offer, because I've made a friend and a brother for life. You are someone that I love dearly, and I remember kind of having this epiphany here. We meet once on Zoom. I'm like, yeah, I can kind of help you out, and you're telling me how, like, okay, I'm dyslexic, so my writing's pretty rough. Could I send you some chapters? And like, sure, and TJ, I can say this, right? We love each other. The writing was a little rough. It was a little rough, but actually we're pretty good though. I quickly fell in love with your story. I was like, man, this guy's got something and he needs some help. And so I like kind of came up with this concept of like, all right, let's do a writer's weekend. And I invited myself down to the Sharitz Hotel, which I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I really don't know this guy. But you're like, yeah, come on down. Let's go. Right. So yeah, that was pretty powerful. We might get back to that weekend a little bit later. Okay.
Sure.
But I kind of want to dig into the story and kind of dig into things that I remember from the book. There's a few things that have really stood out to me, since working on it. It's been a few years since I started helping you with the book. And when did it officially launch?
Oh, I believe it was August of 2024.
Oh, man.
So it's, or the latter
2-year anniversary?
Oh, yes. Wow, I didn't even realize that. Yes. I haven't thought about that question in a while. So I think we started getting our first copies in late July of 2024. And of course, I had no idea what that meant. And you tried, you and a number of people that you introduced me to tried to warn me what was happening and what I needed to do, because I was going to be a self-published author. So there was work to be done. And as a control freak, I had to try to figure out, am I trying to control this, or am I trying to do God's purpose for me, since
Yeah.
this is now my ministry and now my purpose in life. How can I serve God without trying to control everything, So it was a
Yeah.
challenge.
Absolutely. Well, I love that. I mean, that's a perfect segue. You are a self-described control freak, and there's some reasons why. There's things in your story that have come out. And so the first thing I remember from the book is I think we kind of created this concept of the national championship Super Bowl, this memory from your childhood. So I want you to tell a story because like you won the game, you hold your proverbial trophy up in the air, and it's just a good memory. But then the memory changes because your parents come home. And TJ,
Yes.
what happens here?
We were
Mm,
playing in the front yard, and I saw my mom and dad come back. They had gone out to some kind of a meeting, and it was summertime. And I could, as they pulled up the driveway, I could see the hurt, the pain that they were carrying, and I couldn't figure out why my really happy parents were coming home from this meeting so sad. And I can remember the garage door going up and the sounds of that, and then it going back down and being relieved that my dad wasn't coming out, or they weren't coming out to tell us. So it didn't involve us. So we kept playing. And then when I heard the front door open to our house and my dad asked me to come inside, my heart sank. I knew
yeah.
something that had touched them was going to now touch me. And when I got inside, my parents sat me down in the kitchen, which was kind of our come to Jesus table, if you would, when we needed to have a conversation that we needed to be focused on. And I can remember the hurt in their eyes and them having to tell me that they had done all this testing on me and they had just got through meeting with the specialist and that they concluded that I have dyslexia and I was ADD and that I was going to need to repeat third grade. And you talk about bartering. Man, I begged, I pleaded, I cried. I was like, no, I don't want to go through third grade again. I had passed third grade. There was no way I was going to do that again. And they said, well, T, you don't understand. We need to slow you down and give you more time to catch up on your reading skills and your comprehension. We're going to put you in another school and you're going to do third grade there. And I'm like, well,
Mm,
now you're going to pull me away from all my friends, my safety net. You're going to pull me away with a teacher, but yet you're going to stick me in a place I don't know any of the teachers and I don't have any friends. I remember telling my dad, I said, I'll do whatever you tell me to do, but I don't love you. And I ran out and ran to my bedroom and just cried my eyes out. And then, we
mm.
didn't play any more football.
Such a hard memory. I
Yeah.
mean that it's like one of the first things I remember reading and saying like, okay, this story obviously has a hook, but I mean it's such a pain-filled, hard moment that is quickly tacked on by transferring schools, being in a different environment, feeling all this tension of like teachers trying to get you to read aloud and you struggling, and teachers like
Making fun of
uh,
me,
yeah, I
calling
mean
me
like
names.
we can say the R word
Yeah. I mean,
was
I
used.
was told I was mental retarded and stupid and that
Yeah,
I can't read. And it was so bad, Jim, that I'd go home and tell my parents and my parents would go, well, before they got me tested. And they said, you just need to work harder, stay focused, and it'll be okay. It's not that bad. Well, when my friends in the class, they got so scared and upset, they didn't realize that I had a learning difficulty or that I was struggling at reading. I was just like them. So they would go home and tell the parents how scared they were of what was happening to me, that
Mm,
their parents called my parents. And that's when my
wow.
parents went, wow, we gotta look further into this. And so they got me a lot of testing and they did everything that was possible to help me. And to say the least, I did not handle that change very well at all. And that really was the foundation of me wanting to take control. Because if I took control, I wouldn't be hurt again. I wouldn't be made fun of. So I became, tried to be funny where the kids would laugh with me, not laugh at me. And I was trying very hard to control every situation that I was thrown into so I would not be humiliated or made fun of. And I was mad as hell, not just my parents, but at God. God had made me, and God had made junk. And it was okay that I didn't read, but I was pretty upset.
Yeah, I hate all of that. You clearly did try to find places to control, places where you could win.
Yes.
Your story really gripped me in that you, I think, clearly illustrated a concern that you had no hope or future, which unequivocally was not true.
Right.
But as a kid, like, how do you know? And you're hearing these terrible narratives about yourself, and I don't know, it just feels out of control. So it does make sense. It is logical for you to try to find places where you can control the narrative. And I know that one of those places was in athletics. Like you were gifted physically and could do well on the sports field. You got yourself to a level where you didn't have to be the groundskeeper anymore, but you continued to be a star football player, right?
Well, not only football, but I actually started out in swimming because the cool thing about swimming, I didn't rely on any other teammates. I didn't have to rely on judges. I didn't have to, on referees. It was all about me. And I just concluded, okay, fine. I'm just not going to be a scholar, but I'm going to pour myself into athletics because I can control swimming. Only thing I have to do is compete with the clock. And that worked really well until I actually got second place in a meet at 15 years old on the nationals. And I didn't handle that well. I handled it like a spoiled little brat instead of being, I was happy for the guy that went on to go to the Olympics. John Stevens beat me handily, and I quit swimming and said, I'm going to go play football now. And after spending, years doing that, and then football was really good for me. It got me back in the team concept. There were a lot of things I couldn't control, but once again, I could train harder, work harder, and hopefully rise to the top where, colleges started to notice me and I got offers. And, problem was, I wasn't going to be able to get into college. My counselors said, well, you're a dumb jock. There's no sense applying to college, especially D1, because if you get in by some lucky draw, you're going to flunk out and you'll be back here at a junior college or a community college somewhere. So,
Man, but you ultimately made it to Virginia Tech. Like,
yes.
Go Hokies, go Gobblers. I don't know what you were
Hokies
at the time. Okay.
Hey,
but,
this is our year, man.
I believe you. You
I'm
guys are figuring out.
He's gonna bring us to the national championship this year. I feel it in my bones.
Okay, you heard it here first, folks.
That's right.
Get your bets in.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I love the journey that you took. You had to go to community college first, but you had this dream, you had this goal, and you were committed to it. And Virginia Tech was the school, and you made it there.
Yeah. I had lots of offers where they looked at my academics and they withdrew the offer within a week. So going to a junior college was a wonderful step for me and a real blessing, and I kind of embraced that. I made all A's my first semester, and I got much more personal time with teachers and professors, and I learned to advocate for myself much better on a collegiate level. And my dad, with the help, then transferred me in to Virginia Tech, and I started spring ball my freshman year at Virginia Tech, and lo and behold, they fired the coach and staff that had recruited me, and they brought in Bill Dooley and his coaching staff, which in a lot of ways was such a blessing to me.
Cool. Well, I mean, it's, up until this point of the story, like you are up and to the right. You're figuring out how to take control, and you're having success. You're enjoying success. And then you, after graduation, this is my favorite story of all time, TJ, and I'm going to do it sensitively. Okay. We're going to protect some names. Okay. You know what's happening. I love what's happening. Okay. So, you get invited to go to an NFL training camp.
Yes.
Should we say the name of the team? Cause that maybe is a clue who this person might be. Okay.
No. Right. We just won't say what year it is. So,
okay. Perfect.
Yeah. I had gotten, through guys that I played with that had been drafted. A good friend of mine got me an agent, and that agent said, well, you want to be a kicker and you didn't kick at Virginia Tech. That's going to be a hard thing to take on. So he got me some tryouts to see.
Hold on.
What?
Hold on. You want a kicker at Virginia Tech?
Oh, man, you're going to open that can of worms.
Okay. We'll talk about that later, but that is like legitimately a hard transition. Like,
yes.
I actually had no idea. This is breaking news to me. This is wrecking my entire impression of everything.
So I knew I wanted to play at Virginia Tech. In high school, I was a running back, a safety, and I did all the special teams for kicking. But I knew it, to go to Virginia Tech or a Clemson or an Alabama, as a running back, I wasn't really cut out for that, and I didn't want to subject my body to that abuse. And I knew I felt very strongly that I could be successful in college as a kicker and make it into the pros. So when the coaching staff that had recruited me as a kicker left, Bill Dooley came in and they moved me to running back, which I appreciate that they believed in me enough that I was fast enough, and I was a good size. I was just almost 6 foot and 225 and ran a 4.4, 4.5 in the 40. So I could move. That's because I was scared to death of being hit. If the truth be told. But all through college, I continued to kick. The coaching staff allowed me to use the facilities to kick. So I continued to kick and punt. And so when these guys made it into the NFL and got me connected, I got several tryouts with USFL team. The USFL had kicked in. Donald Trump had signed Herschel Walker to the New Jersey Generals. That was the first team that I tried out for. I should have listened at that tryout to what God was doing and trying to do for me, because God was desperately trying to reach me and let me know that kicking was not going to be my vehicle. I came in late to that tryout. A friend brought me. I was late to the tryout. I was rushed through. I had no time to warm up or do anything. And let's just say I crumbled to the pressure. And instead of taking that, God and I weren't the closest. And I kind of had a semi-relationship. I wasn't really deep into connecting with God. It was more of a convenience, and okay, I'm going to go to church on Sunday. But, even though I was involved with the FCA, I really didn't have that intimate relationship with Christ. Mm-hmm. So I took control and kept pushing, and I was one of several people that some would call it a cattle call up to New York. At a small little college up there where they held camp. And I was kicking out of my mind. Things were doing great. I went to kick a ball and field goal, and they pulled the ball up so we could do a fake. And I stopped, and I'd done that thousands of times. And that motion, that sudden stop, just happened to tweak my knee the wrong way, and my opportunity was gone before it started. So.
Okay, but this was not communicated to you that like we're going to pull the ball. This was like
Right. It was more cutting around
guy,
and having a little fun here. So there was no malicious intent or anything.
No, I know, but this guy, he Lucy'd you. It's a Peanuts reference, right?
Yes.
Charlie Brown never got to kick the football.
Charlie Brown never got to kick we added that and we made sure that was in the book the right way, because that's exactly what happened. I mean, I slipped and looked stupid like a true rookie. And, like I say, I'd done that exercise a ton, but this just particular way things went, it was over.
Yeah.
So let's not talk about that pain anymore.
Okay, well, I'm going to. I'm sorry, because this is
I know
pivotal,
it would be
man.
a better story if I'd said, "Hey, I kicked with the Giants. We went to the Super Bowl a few years later, and I kicked the winning field goal." However, that did not happen. So.
I agree. That would be a better story, but this is the story that God has written in your life. So
no, that God did not write that for me. So. There's no ill will. It's really funny because when you and I were talking about the book and working on the manuscript, I think you were at times astonished how much control I had really given up and or I had relinquished. I didn't give up on anything, but the pain wasn't there because I knew that I'd given it everything that I had and that God had other things for me that he wanted me to pursue. And I couldn't pursue those things if I had focus on that. After Jackie and I got married, actually while we were engaged, her dad flew for an airline and he would fly me around, help me out, and they would travel with me to different training camps. And, I did a 6-day training camp with a number of teams in South Georgia at a big stadium, and I got a urinary tract infection on the last day, and zapped my power. So I went from the number 2 kicker in the whole camp to, who gets a urinary tract infection
that's
in
wild,
a training
man.
camp? So
no, I get
it wasn't meant to be.
Okay, so this star football player, he's not the one that actually did it to you. You did blow out your knee, but it was God coordinating something, and ultimately you had to give up that dream, this thing that you had worked so hard on. And sweet goodness, you were that good of an athlete that you were like second place going to the Olympics in swimming, and then NCAA football running back to nearly NFL kicker. Like you literally could do everything. I do hate you because I ain't you. That's insane, TJ. We don't have enough time to tell all of the book story, but like you go for it in broadcast and are quite successful, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I landed in Savannah, at WJCL Newswatch 22, an NBC affiliate, and some wonderful, wonderful friends and memories at that station. And lo and behold, I think my news director realized that writing wasn't my forte, that I struggled a little at writing, but shooting, running the camera, editing, and even ad-libbing, being in front of the camera, I was very good at. He sends me to the Kiwanis Club, so I'm excited to cover that because it was going to be a free seafood lunch, which I love seafood. And Savannah's got great seafood. So I go to this Kiwanis Club meeting and lunch meeting, and there's a speaker that is speaking on the disadvantages and the difficulties children and students face with dyslexia. And I'm sitting there listening to this lady talk to these men, and she's saying, if a student has dyslexia, they find out at a young age, they can work with it, but they're never going to be able to overcome that disability. And I remember being struck by calling it a disability because I didn't see it really as a disability. I learned different than others. Yeah. And she went on, and she said, one of the dads asked, if, hey, my son's an athlete, would go into college and playing football, would that be something they would want to take on? I said, oh, heavens, no. That would just be too much pressure for a student with dyslexia. There's not enough support there for him. And when she got through, they opened it up to even more questions. And with my camera rolling, I asked her, introduce myself, said, I'm TJ. I'm a reporter here. I'm curious. I want to make sure that I got this right. You're saying that, let's say, for example, I'm a high school senior and I'm a star football player and I'm talking to D1 schools to go play college football and I'm dyslexic. And you're telling me that that wouldn't be a good choice for me. She said, absolutely not. That would just be too much pressure for you as an athlete. And I said, well, and definitely I would think going into the broadcast field would definitely be a no-no. She goes, oh, yeah, that's just, you'd have to read out loud. You'd have to read scripts. You'd have to write. That's just not going to be in your wheelhouse. And I smiled and I said, hi, I want to introduce myself again. I'm TJ Sharitz. I work for WJCL Newswatch 22 here in Savannah, and I'm a reporter.
And I'm dyslexic.
And I'm dyslexic.
Yeah.
So it was very, very quiet in that room. And, when you and I were working on the manuscript and we kind of went through that, it's actually so-called mic drop in the book, chapter. I don't think that my news director sent me there to be mean. I don't think that God orchestrated that for me with the intention of hurting or bringing up old wounds. It gave me an opportunity to handle it professionally, take it on, and let it go and look at myself. Look, I can be successful. I can play sports. Other student athletes that have dyslexia, and especially in today's environment where there's so much support for student athletes, and students that have any learning differences or difficulties. So that stigma is gone. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, that's a story that absolutely sticks out because I don't think you were intending to just shame this person, but
no.
Obviously the way we think about these sorts of things, I like that you call it a learning difference as opposed to a learning disability. I think the way that we learn about these things has just changed over the years. We think about it differently. Because I think we all have strengths and weaknesses. Like God doesn't let us get into this world without some strengths and some weaknesses. And, dyslexia, ADD, like these are some of your weaknesses. You make it up with super sexiness and being a big athlete. I was just looking for a laugh, honestly.
Well, obviously. But let me clarify something. It's having learning differences is not a handicap. To me, I relate it to someone that is deaf. Their other senses are heightened. They're more aware of smells, things they see, and just dyslexia in itself. I still struggle some at reading out loud or with the written word, or even stuttering for that matter, as I just stuttered. But I just learn differently. And I have certain gifts from that. Like I can read a script and I can visualize what and how I want to put that together, how I want to put that puzzle together, if you would. So video editing and audio editing has been something I've enjoyed for years. So I mean, look at other people that that we have found out are dyslexic. There are a lot of athletes that have, and politicians for that matter, that have dyslexia and other differences that are phenomenally successful. So
yeah, of course. You obviously grew up in the wrong era for it, where it was easy to throw the R word at it or something, right?
Right.
My sister similarly grew up in that era and is dyslexic, and I think that it's created this negative viewpoint for herself on some levels. And I'm
Yes.
like, you're the greatest human. Like all your strengths way outweigh this weakness. Like, okay, like you send goofy texts. I actually love them. That's quite endearing to me. I don't know. TJ, you impressed me on so many different levels. You, to push forward this story a little bit, you have an epic, come to Jesus kind of moment. And I don't want to, squash the story at all. I just want you to
Right.
be able to tell it. Because I think this is where you begin. This is my favorite line in the book. And yes, I think I wrote this line, but, your story absolutely like put this on my heart. With control, we can either wield it like a weapon, or we can yield it, because control is a farce and it's God's anyways. So this is the moment where you finally, like fully, and not completely, of course, but you finally are like, okay, I can't wield this anymore. It's not working for me. I'm finally going to yield control. Tell us that story.
Wonderful words, by the way.
Mm.
You knew I was struggling with surrendering control, giving up control. And you helped me to rephrase that where I felt more empowered. By yielding control, I'm choosing to yield to the one that is in control, and that's God. To back up from that, we had grown my business. I had a film production as well as an advertising agency. We had, and I'll even back up further. I felt I had built this company and companies and become very successful by hard work and on my own. I did have wonderful parents-in-law that helped me get started, a wonderful wife. And I did not see God's orchestrations of blessing my business at the time. And my control issues that I had at a very young age had started to develop. The older I got, the more that control, the more I needed to feed that addiction to control. The more control I had, the more I wanted, the more money I generated, the more sales I generated, the more, cars I wanted, the more toys I wanted, the more things, material things I wanted. My relationship with God was not good. I was what I call a walking, breathing, dead Christian. We'd show up to church on Sunday. I'd say hi and goodbye, thank you for the sermon, and leave. So I did not have a relationship with people at the church, surely not the priest at the time. And I wasn't really in a great relationship. And lo and behold, one of my clients, and this is, back before the internet, actually got my wife's phone and called my wife because she was so concerned that all I cared about was money, 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 money. And I was worshiping that. And that the family and God were at the very bottom of the list. And my wife was very candid with Kara. Kara was a good friend. It still is a good friend, dear friend. And Jackie said, he's just nothing but a paycheck. When he is here, he's not present. I can see, and the kids at 4 and 5 years old can see that dad's not really here. His mind is elsewhere. He's thinking of the next deal. How can I make more money? What's the next toy I want to get for my car? And Kara said, well, I'm going to recommend that he go to this business seminar. I'm going to tell it's a business seminar. It's actually a self-reflection, self-help seminar out in Dallas, Texas called Choices. And she told me about it later that week. And I said, she goes, hey, you're always asking, how can I get more? How can I get more stuff? How can I get more money, more clients? This place called Choices will answer a lot of those questions so you can get more of what you want. And when I heard get more of what you want, I was on the next plane to Dallas, Texas. I got on that plane and I got at this seminar. And, being a creative mindset, I'm looking at this horrible marketing materials up in the wall, these laminated and, rubber signs that say you learn more about with a play with a man for an hour than a lifetime of work, be, do, have, and all these sayings. And I'm like, man, they need some serious marketing help. And these people were going around sharing these horrible stories of pain and things they had been through and struggles and accidents. And I was thinking, man, I must be in the wrong room. This has got to be the wrong seminar, because my life's great. I've got everything I want. I only want more. And, they came to me at the very end and he goes, well, you don't think you need to be here? I said, absolutely not. This is the wrong seminar for me. I'm here for a business seminar to help me get more of what I want. And bless that facilitator's heart, she just started asking me questions. And she asked me, what's the worst thing I'm facing? And I tell her about, going from a small office space to a big office space. What's the worst thing that could happen? Well, I could bite off more than I could chew. I could go bankrupt. What's the worst thing that could happen? Well, I guess my wife and kids could leave me. I've gone bankrupt. And what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, I get sick and I die alone. And lo and behold, as you know, that really started me thinking for the next 4 or 5 days, the things that I was grateful for. And that, wow, TJ, your addiction to control and trying to control not just me, but my environment, people I worked with, my family, my wife, my kids. I mean, imagine a dad trying to control what your kids do and how they play and what they create. I mean, I'd become an animal, so to speak, in a negative way. And I realized that God was last and I needed to put him first, then my family, and we'd figure out the rest. And it truly blessed our marriage by putting God first and realizing he's really the only one that's in control. But I still would dabble in control and wanting more. But God turned our marriage around, and my relationship with my kids got better. My relationship with Christ was stronger. And lo and behold, 2 years later, I walked literally that scenario almost to a T. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was June 26, 2000, 5:30 in the morning. I woke up. I thought I'd been shot in the back or stabbed. And I was frantically looking around for this culprit of what caused the pain. And I see Jackie there just sound asleep. And she wakes up from all my rustling around and what's going on. And I say, I got this back pain. It's just intense. Put some BioFreeze, go back to sleep. And she rolled back over. Well, Jim, the pain was so intense, I couldn't go to sleep. I felt waves of pain getting worse. So I got showered, got dressed, drove into work early, and I had to pull over because I was in so much pain. Sitting was just excruciating. Ended up driving to a 24-hour clinic. They saw me right away and said, "Oh, you've strained your back. You're about to turn 40. Let's give you some pain pills to help with the pain, and here's some anti-inflammatories. Go home and rest." So I went home and I did that. And I was blessed. Jackie is a pharmacist, so I would be calling her, throughout the day, going, "Honey, I took these pain pills, but I'm getting absolutely no relief at all." And it had been, "Well, you got to give it 20 minutes. And honey, it's been 2 hours and it's getting worse." "Well, you got to wait till 4:00 to take 2 more. And I was literally in so much pain that I was counting the hours to take the next couple of pills, and nothing was helping. Got to the end of that week. We go see my regular doctor who's a good friend of ours. Jackie worked for Kaiser Permanente at the time, and they were awesome. And they took one look at me and said, "Hey, you haven't strained your back. You've slipped a disc. We see this a lot with men. I'm going to send you to physical therapy, stronger anti-inflammatory. That'll really help with the inflammation. And I'll give you a little stronger pain pill." Um, they sent me to physical therapy. It was so painful for me at physical therapy that I was screaming in pain because they were trying to bend me, and the middle of my back, I couldn't bend over and touch my toes anymore. It was really
Mm.
hard to bend. They would have to send me to the back room, back where their break room was, away from all the patients, and I'd have a piece of rubber stuck in my mouth to bite down on because of the pain. It was excruciating, to say the least. And at home, I was supposed to lay on the floor and just push my chest off the ground to kind of get that arc in your lower back. And my kids would come in and do push-ups, and from the story that the kids would do their 10 push-ups, and I'd do my 10 chest pushes. And literally I think it was the third or fourth day of physical therapy, as we get to that end of that week, I'm on the floor. The kids come in. They're like, "Okay, Dad, let's do our 10 push-ups." And Jim, with everything I had in my body, I could not push my chest off the ground. And that literally scared me to death. And I can remember Rachel running out of the room screaming, "Mommy, Mommy, Daddy's dying, Daddy's dying." And as a father, this was probably the biggest first mistake I ever made with my daughter. She and Jackie came back in the room, and I go, "Oh, Rachel's just exaggerating. You know how she is. She's just making something a little, and it's nothing. It's no big deal. I actually think I'm getting better." So right there at 5 years old, her dad just called her a liar. And one thing Rachel is not a liar. She speaks the truth sometimes to her fault. So she never lies. And so I already broke a trust there with my daughter, not knowing that. But I didn't want to be the reason they didn't go on vacation. They were scheduled to go to see Jackie's mom and dad up at the lake in Wisconsin. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to travel, but I didn't want to be the reason they didn't. So Jackie set up our neighbors with the 2 high school boys so they could, Tom and Chris and Matt would come over and, get me food because I couldn't go downstairs and get food. It was just too painful. They would shower me. They would also take me down to the pool where I could float and get some relief. And the following week, they saw such a drastic change in my appearance and my lack of mobility that they called Jackie and said, "You got to get home. TJ's dying." When Jackie got back a few days later, because she had driven up with the kids, she took one look at me. She called our good friend Sean, the doctor, and Sean ordered an emergency MRI, and they did a full body scan. And then they did a bone biopsy in my vertebrae in my spine where they took a piece of bone out of my vertebrae. I can still remember that sensation, to say the least. And he called later that day and said, "We're going to try to make TJ comfortable." He had permission to talk to, Jackie and me at the same time. I'd given that consent. And Jackie goes, "What do you mean make him comfortable?" He goes, "Jackie, he's got a bone infection, and the infection is called Klebsiella. And it's not a question if he's going to die. It's a question of when. And we're going to send him to infectious disease to see what they maybe can do to help him feel more comfortable."
All right, TJ, this is awesome. I love this conversation so much, but it is going long, and I don't want to cheapen the experience at all. So I think we're going to do a part 2. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that's awesome. I mean, you opened a lot of cans with lots of worms in them that needed to be flushed out. So I appreciate that. But I'll do whatever you would like to do. I'm all for it.
Okay. All right. Well, we got some juicy stuff to come for episode 2, but we're just going to hit the pause button now, and we will see you next week for part 2 of my conversation with TJ Sharitz, the used to be control freak. Thanks for watching us today. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe, and make sure that you are getting all the updates to see part 2 next week. We'll see you then. I don't know. That's fine. I don't care. All right.
I did
And
that little
then
dance.
you did it. You can do it again. We're about to do it. Yeah.